Welcome to the 2024 post-Super Bowl mock draft by Daniel Alameda and Mason Kinnahan. We're here post-Super Bowl. Mason, we're going to run through all 32 teams. So once again, if you guys are watching this, make sure you guys like this video. And not only that, comment what you want your team to select. And if you agree or disagree with some of our picks, what are you looking at for the number one overall pick?
Well, I mean, Daniel, you can talk about all the different scenarios that the Chicago Bears have. Do you keep Fields? Do you not keep Fields? Do you end up trading down? I know this is a no-trade mock draft, but do you end up trading down from the number one pick, or do you go ahead and select your guy number one? At the end of the day, I think that's what they do. I think they stay at number one, and I think they go with the best quarterback in this draft, in my opinion. That's Caleb Williams, a guy who's the potential to be 1A, 1B with a guy like Patrick Mahomes in the NFL, a guy that we saw in 2022 what he's capable of, being the best player in the entire country. I think Caleb Williams is the pick here ultimately for Chicago. I think they move on from Fields, and Caleb Williams is the selection here.
I think they go Caleb Williams, and you can make the argument. I'm still a believer in Justin Fields. I'm sure a lot of people are, but with where their organization is, I'm with you. Number two, we got your Commanders. If they don't trade up, number two, who do you got them taking?
Well, similar to Chicago, there's so many different scenarios Washington can go with the second overall pick. I know there's rumors that they can trade up and select Caleb Williams with the first pick, adding Cliff Kingsbury as the offensive coordinator. You know that connection there at USC. There's potential that Washington trades back. There's some reports saying that as well. So you could really go either way. I think Washington, just like Chicago, ultimately stays at number two, ends up selecting the second best quarterback in this draft. And to me, that's UNC quarterback Drake Maye. I think he can, similar to Caleb Williams, he's going to be a franchise quarterback in the NFL. You could say maybe he has the higher floor, but similar to Williams, I think he definitely has a similar ceiling, maybe a little bit less, but I think Maye could also be one of the best quarterbacks ultimately in the NFL. I think Washington finds their franchise quarterback and ends up with Drake Maye.
Yeah, I'm with you. And when I look at this, right, it's got to be quarterback. And in my humble opinion, I went to Arizona State. I watched Jayden Daniels. I covered him at Arizona State. Jayden Daniels is a good quarterback. Jayden Daniels can be a great quarterback, but I think there is a tier that Drake Maye is above Jayden Daniels as a pure quarterback. And I'm with you. I think Drake Maye would be the best pick here. And it starts off like we talked about in one of our older videos, but I'm confident in this Washington Commanders' new regime. I really am. The coaching staff, the way that they're running the organization. I'm with you. I'm locking in Drake Maye here for number two. Looking at number three, we get the New England Patriots. Do they go quarterback? Do they trade back? Do they take Marvin Harrison? Mason, what are you thinking?
I think they end up staying at three, although they're definitely going to be a trade candidate in terms of trading down. But I think the decision for Elliott Wolf, who's leading this draft process for the New England Patriots now, I think he's really leaning towards selecting a wide receiver or a tackle. And in this case, I think they're going to go ahead and they're going to select Marvin Harrison Jr. over Jayden Daniels at quarterback. I think they're going to try and find their quarterback or a bridge guy that they can be complacent with, maybe in free agency or trading for one as well. But I think Marvin Harrison Jr. is the Patriots guy here at three.
If I'm the New England Patriots, I would not take Jayden Daniels at number three. That's me. I think Marvin Harrison. I think Joe Alt. And you know what? I hate that we're agreeing so much already, but give me Marvin Harrison Jr., pick number three. Number four, you get the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray. Do they go Jayden Daniels? Mason, what do you got number four?
Well, if this is how the first three picks fall for Arizona, I am 99.9% sure they end up trading back. But let's say they don't. And you have Jayden Daniels on the board, right? I still think you have your franchise quarterback in Kyler Murray. I don't think they're going to overreact to that. But I do think they want a weapon, and they're really hoping in number four that Marvin Harrison Jr. will be there, and quarterback goes 1, 2, 3. But in this scenario, that doesn't happen, and they're going to have to make a selection here at number four. And I think that selection is going to be LSU wide receiver Malik Nabers. They need some speed with those wide receivers pretty much on that offense. And getting a guy like Nabers with Kyler Murray and his arm and everything, I think Nabers would be a solid pick here and add a explosiveness to this Arizona offense through the passing game that we haven't seen over the last few years.
This is where the front office here is disagreeing. I think Rome Odunze would be the pick. So real quick, sell me Nabers over Rome Odunze. Me personally, I think Rome Odunze is the better wide receiver. I think all around. I've seen people comp him to Larry Fitzgerald. I think the year that he had, he can play slot, play outside. Sell me real quick Nabers over Odunze. Why would they pick him?
Yeah, I think Neighbors just is speed, right? Arizona, they need explosiveness. You had a guy like Rondale Moore on that roster for a little bit who can be somewhat speedy, but he was just never really used in the way that maybe some had hoped in Arizona. And bringing a guy like Malik Neighbors with his electric speed, it kind of is what brings him over Rome Odunze, in my opinion. I know Odunze probably is the better all around, you could say, prospect, but I think they have similar ceilings. I think Neighbors can definitely be one of the guys that just takes over the game with his speed and just shreds defenses week in and week out. I just have Neighbors over Odunze, in my opinion. But again, like you mentioned, I think they are two very similar prospects in terms of where I had them graded. I think the speed, though, just the electric speed that Neighbors has, is what puts him over Odunze, in my opinion.
We have the Los Angeles Chargers. In my opinion, I think this team could be a potential Super Bowl team this year. They got the franchise quarterback, Mason. Number 5, Chargers. Who do they go?
Yeah, well, yeah, this is kind of worst case scenario for the Chargers.
Yeah.
You want probably one of Neighbors or Harrison to fall to 5, and I think they probably selected with this case with Jayden Daniels still on the board. They probably thought that they were going to get Malik Neighbors after Arizona went with Harrison at 4 and Daniels at 3 for the Patriots, but they still need an offensive weapon. Quentin Johnson, that experiment hasn't really worked out. It was one of the biggest busts in the first round from last season. I think Rome Odunze will be the pick here. You kind of get a little bit of a run with the top wide receivers in this class. Harrison, Neighbors, then Odunze falling, what is it, 3, 4, 5. But I think Odunze will be the pick here for the Chargers.
It's a different regime. And I promise you guys, different regimes do different things. Jim Harbaugh and his crop is coming in. They didn't select Quentin Johnson. And it is, what can you do to better your team now? I'm with you. I think Rome Odunze would be the pick. The New York Giants, a lot of Giants fans are going to have questions about this. Number 6 overall, Mason. Who do they go? Jayden Daniels still on the board.
Yeah, I think this is where the Jayden Daniels slip finally ends. I think the Giants, they're kind of ecstatic right now at number 6. If Jayden Daniels falls this far and no one else decides to trade up, I think in a scenario where there is trades, I think the Giants would probably trade up if Daniels falls past the Patriots at 3. Daniel Jones, I don't think is their answer. And with the front office there and that coaching staff somewhat on the hot seat now after giving Daniels that big extension, I think Jayden Daniels is going to be their emergency replacement and pretty much be their final guy between are they going to get fired after next year or not. It's going to rely on the development of Jayden Daniels.
You know, watch this guy. You have to be able to utilize his legs. You have to build around Jayden Daniels, and Brian Dable's the guy to do it. I think if the New York Giants select Jayden Daniels, I really think this is a spot where he really could thrive. The Titans, in my opinion, I haven't looked at other people's mock drafts, but you're looking at a franchise offensive tackle in Joe Alt. You win in the trenches. If I'm the Titans here, I go Joe Alt. What do you say, Mason?
Yeah, I think Joe Alt or Alufashanu would definitely be the pick here in this scenario. Both of them falling outside the top 6. In my opinion, I have Alufashanu above Joe Alt, so I would end up going Olufashano here. But I like your case for Joe Alt here, and I think Joe Alt, the Titans front office would probably like a little bit more just because of the higher floor that he has. So I agree. I would go Joe Alt here.
Who do you got for the Falcons?
Yeah, I'm going to assume that they end up trading for Justin Fields in this scenario, I think, or either them or the Patriots. So I wouldn't really worry about the quarterback if I'm the Atlanta Falcons in this case. But I'm just looking through the guys, and I'm looking at corner, maybe Cooper DeJean. I love Nate Wiggins. I think he can definitely slip into the top 10. They kind of already have the interior with Grady Jarrett filled out, so I don't really know if they need Jerzon Newton. They don't really need a tackle. I mean, maybe Talise Flogger, but they don't really need one. So I think this is going to get a little bit interesting. I'm going to go and pick Nate Wiggins out of Clemson in this case.
I wasn't sure if you were going to do it. I'm glad you're putting him on the table.
Yeah, I think he's the best corner in this class. I have him above Terry and Arnold. I have him above Cooper DeJean and Kool-Aid McKinstry. He's the best corner in this class. He's, in my opinion, a top 10 player in this class. So Nate Wiggins to Atlanta here. You're going to pair him up across AJ Terrell. I think it's a great pick if you're Atlanta.
Talk about Nate Wiggins. I absolutely love them. I'm excited to see what the Falcons fans say. Once again, if you guys are watching this, drop your comments down below. Number 9, Chicago Bears. They got 2 top 10 picks. They already got their franchise quarterback. Who do they take at number 9?
But a guy that's kind of sticking out to me right now is Jerzon Newton. He's a bigger guy at defensive line. The Bears need interior defensive line. You have Gravon Dexter on one side of it, but I think adding a guy like Jayden Newton, that's going to be one of the best run-stopping duos in the NFL between those two guys if you can develop them. So Jayden Newton, I think the Bears go offense with their first overall pick, defense with the ninth overall pick. The ninth pick. So Jayden Newton out of Illinois would be my pick.
New York Jets. What do you got them taking?
Yeah, I think the Jets at 10, you love how this board has fallen for them. And I think they sprint up to the podium to draft your guy out of Penn State, Olu Fashanu. They need some help at tackle with Mekhi Becton not really working out, Elijah Vera Tucker, and everything happening there. But I think Olu Fashanu, if he falls to the 10, you're sprinting up to the podium if you're the Jets here and selecting him.
Number 11, the Minnesota Vikings. We're not sure. Kirk Cousins. I also personally, it's a long shot, but I like Jayden Daniels going to the Vikings. I think that'd be a good fit. But who do you got the Vikings taking?
Yeah, I definitely think they could be a potential trade-up candidate with one of those guys like the Cardinals or the Patriots if they want to eye a quarterback if they do end up losing Kirk Cousins.
Where I'm going to make my bold prediction. I think Chop Robinson is going to go top 15. I've watched this dude's film, and once again, I know this isn't going to be, everybody's cup of tea, but he is one of those guys where I'm guaranteeing he does extremely well in the pre-draft process. When you turn on his film, the dude flashes. He's one of the guys where I'm making my claim right now. I think he will be an all-pro guy, but not only that, but I think the NFL will view him in that type of light. He will be a top 15 pick. So he would be like my dark horse to be like up here above a Dallas Turner, above a Jared Verse. Just throwing that out there. I think they go edge.
Okay, well, Bo Nix, he's really consistent with that Kevin O'Connell offense. He's going to fit pretty much perfectly in it. We look at what Kirk did. Kirk isn't the most athletic guy in the world. We look at Bo Nix, he isn't the most athletic guy in the world, but he can make the throws across the field. You could also argue to me JJ McCarthy with this pick as well. If the Minnesota Vikings do end up losing Kirk Cousins, I think McCarthy or Nix could definitely be options.
All right, Bo Nix at number 11 overall. You got the Denver Broncos at number 12 overall. They got Russell Wilson, but there's some rumors around Russell Wilson. Who are you taking at number 12?
Let's just do it. JJ McCarthy. Let's send it. Because there's been a lot of rumors. A lot of NFL teams are higher on McCarthy, higher on Nix than what fans are thinking right now. And I really think both of those two guys are going to end up going in the top 20. The Denver Broncos, they're not going to be rolling into 2024 with Russell Wilson as their quarterback. That's pretty much certain. They're not going to have a guy. They don't really have anyone right now that's developing beyond Russell Wilson. So let's just do it. JJ McCarthy, young guy, only 20, one of the youngest players in the draft. Very accurate. I know he hasn't been under a lot of adversity, but who else to help develop him than Sean Payton? I think that would be a perfect fit for them.
Who do you got the Raiders taking 13?
I think they're going to try and go edge rusher here, maybe match someone up alongside. I know they went Tyree Wilson last year, and he's kind of more versatile. He can play 3-tech. He can play on the outside. He can play even like in a nose tackle too. He can play pretty much anywhere. But I'm going to go with the guy that can solely play on the outside. Give me Dallas Turner. I think matching him across Max Crosby, that'd be one of the best three defensive that would be one of the best trio of defensive linemen. Crosby, Dallas Turner, and Tyree Wilson. That could end up being one of the best trios in the NFL pretty much.
So we are going to go Dallas Turner real quick. Let me just make the case. I think that they could go Byron Murphy here just because I've watched this film. And once again, I'm not going to comp him, but first thing that flashed in my mind, dude kind of looks like Aaron Donald at times. And I'm not making the comparison, but you're getting, if you take Byron Murphy, you're getting an interior defensive lineman who is an absolute dominant pass rusher. And the way I look at him, he's got the traits, he's got the tools. I think if you go interior defensive lineman, you got Crosby on the edge. Number 14, the Saints. Once again, you got a lot of talent on the board. You got offensive tackles. You got tight end Brock Bowers. Who are you going?
Yeah, I think especially since they're bringing Clint Kubiak as a new offensive coordinator, they're going to be wanting like a tight end that can go out, catch passes. He can also block as well. And to me, I know Bowers isn't really the best blocker in the draft, but for a tight end, he's good enough. And so here, I think Brock Bowers, they're going to need a weapon beyond Chris Olave. Michael Thomas is kind of faded out of the rotation now. I think Brock Bowers would be the pick here for the Saints.
Number 15, the Indianapolis Colts. They've got a potential franchise quarterback in Anthony Richardson. Who do they go?
Yeah, I'm pulling up the Colts depth chart now because I'm trying to look at their offensive line, and a guy that's kind of sticking out to me right now is Talise Fuaga, who I think is probably a top 15 selection in this draft. We're at pick 15 right now. I think he's kind of fallen a little bit, especially with these quarterbacks going pretty early. But For the Colts, you could end up going maybe DB, wide receiver. Cooper DeJean sticks out as well, Tyrion Arnold. But Talise Fuaga, I feel like could come in and be an immediate starter, week 1 starter for Indianapolis, and he has the potential of being pretty much the best right tackle in the NFL, in my opinion. So he stood out to me in Mobile, and I think he's the best right tackle in the NFL by far. Not in the NFL, but in this class by far.
Yeah, I was about to say, no, I like that. Number 16, the Seattle Seahawks, new regime. Who do you got them taking?
Yeah, I think edge rusher will definitely be the pick here. I'm looking a lot to Jared Verse. We didn't select Chop Robinson earlier, but do you want to select him here? Because I wouldn't mind it.
See, and this is one, it doesn't feel like a Seattle pick. And this is just me, in my opinion. I think they go with one of the bigger guys. I think like a Jared Verse on the board. That would be my pick. I think Jared Verse, dominant edge rusher, the way I look at him, just physical specimen in the run game, in the red zone. Dude is just a physical specimen. I think they would go Verse.
Verse, I like the pick. I think you could really go with any of the 3 edge rushers here if you're Seattle, because there isn't really an inside offensive lineman that's sticking out. Jackson Powers Johnson, maybe, but I feel with Mike McDonald coming in as the new head coach, I think they go defense with their first pick. And Jared Verse sounds to be the guy.
Who are you taking at 17?
Yeah, I think Jackson Powers Johnson is best pick. I think Powers Johnson either goes to Seattle or he goes to Jacksonville here at 16 and 17. You may say it's a little bit high, but he was pretty much, in my opinion, the best player. You can see my article at TWSN where he was the best player in Mobile during the course of the Senior Bowl week, and I think JPJ is the best interior offensive lineman in this class, and I think he'll immediately be. You look at guys like Tyler Linderbaum thriving with the Ravens. I think you could argue Jackson Powers Johnson is a better prospect than him.
Mm-hmm. Jackson Powers Johnson, I watched the film. Dude is going to be a stud. And in the NFL draft, in my opinion, you take the best players available. Jackson Powers Johnson is a guy I have no doubts about on the field. Dude is going to be a stud. With the number 18 overall pick in the 2024 NFL draft, the Cincinnati Bengals select Michael Hall, defensive tackle, Ohio State. And I know this isn't a name that you guys are expecting to see here, but just hear me out. Okay. When we look at the board, first off, my guy, the number 1 guy who I've got for the Bengals, Jerzon Newton, is not on the board, right? He is the guy, he is the bona fide best defense tackle in this class, in my opinion. You look at the edge rusher position, you got some talent still left on the board. I'm a huge fan of Chop Robinson. I think Chop Robinson could be a star in the NFL. But you look at the Bengals edge rush position, you already got Sam Hubbard, you already got Trey Henderson, Miles Murphy's going to have to get a ton of snaps because you just drafted him in the first round. So no edge rusher for me here. Defensive tackle, I know a lot of people are going to be saying Byron Murphy. I agree with you. I think Byron Murphy is a stud. Byron Murphy is a guy, I kind of comped him a little bit of like an Aaron Donald-esque in the pass rush. He's a guy who can take on double teams. I'm a fan of Byron Murphy. So don't get this twisted. He would be my next guy I would take. The reason why I'm taking Michael Hall is I'm going out on a limb. I think he's going to have a huge pre-draft process, huge arms, extremely fast, extreme athlete. And when I look at his film, man, the dude is just a stud, elite pass rush skills in the run game, able to one arm an offensive lineman and wrap up a running back at the same time. Elite pursuit. I love his effort in the run game. And his only real flag is probably his red flag is his size, 290, and injuries. He had a ton of injuries at Ohio State. That's definitely a scary proposition if you're drafting somebody in the first round, but I'm going out on a limb. He's one of the best defensive tackle prospects I've seen this year, a guy who I've seen dominate Notre Dame's elite offensive line. I'm putting my stamp on it. Give me Michael Hall, a consensus second, third round guy. I think he has a huge pre-draft process, and I think he climbs himself into the first round. Bengals, you get yourself a dominant pass rusher for the future, Michael Hall. Number 19, you got the Los Angeles Rams. Who you got?
Yeah, I think LA here, they go corner. I know they have a lot of young corners already, but I feel like you need one of the premium, spend a premium pick on one. This is their first round pick in how many years it's been? Like 7 years now, 8 years now since they had a first round pick. And there's a lot of options. You could go with like one of the project offensive linemen that we've been talking about. But with Cooper DeJean and Tyrion Arnold on the board, I think they end up selecting Tyrion Arnold in this case over Cooper DeJean. At least that's what I would do.
Pittsburgh Steelers, number 20. Who you got?
Yep. Okay, so I'm looking at this. I know Edge Cooper could be a guy that could sneak up and land in Pittsburgh. I know they need a linebacker. Edge Cooper out of Texas A&M, in my opinion, the best linebacker in this draft class. He could definitely sneak up into round 1. I would not be surprised, but you kind of have Cooper DeJean staring you down in the face right now. He's kind of been the guy that's been here. I know he's ranked. I'm going through the PFF big board. He's ranked at 8th, and so he's been the top guy now for a little bit.
I think defensive line or cornerback is the pick.
I think DeJean here for Pittsburgh, he's one of the best talents on the board. You mentioned it earlier in the draft. You go with the best player available most of the time. DeJean's the best player available.
Miami Dolphins, pick number 21, offensive line, defense. What do you think they go?
I think they definitely go O-line here. They need some help pretty much across the board beyond left tackle. And I'm looking at, I like Troy Fountainu more than guys like J.C. Latham and Amarius Mims. But Fountainu is a left tackle, in my opinion. You can maybe slide him in the left guard, but I feel like you need to go with one of these project linemen. And yeah, I think they go with Latham here. I think they go with Latham.
Yeah, this is, if you're the Miami Dolphins, I really struggle to see how they pass up on one of these offensive linemen. So we got number 22, the Philadelphia Eagles. Who do you got?
Well, we got the news coming out today that Hassan Reddick has been opened to start seeking a trade. So you're kind of looking at edge rusher, but I just feel you have so much depth there already. You can't spend a lot more money on it than what you already have. So much invested in the defensive line already. So I'm not really looking at defensive line. I'm more looking at the secondary, trying to boost these DBs. James Bradbury, who took a step back to say the least this year for Philadelphia. Darius Slay is getting older. So I'm looking at Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo. He was a star in Mobile during the Senior Bowl. He's one of the best cornerback prospects in this class, in my opinion. I think you could argue he's better than Kool-Aid McKinstry. And again, that's what Philadelphia is going with here. They're choosing Quinyon Mitchell over a guy like McKinstry. So I think Mitchell's the pick.
This is the part of the draft where you'll see people say, well, remember what he did at the Senior Bowl? Remember what he did in the draft process? Quinyon Mitchell is the riser this year. You were on it. So Quinyon Mitchell is the pick here. Number 23, we got the Houston Texans. Houston Texans, who do you got them taking?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of options you can go. I think, though, I mean, I'm looking at Brian Thomas, but if they're a similar player, Nico Collins, you already have. So I think they'd probably stay away from wide receiver, as Thomas would be the only wide receiver I would end up taking at this stage in the draft. But I'm more looking at the defense, defensive line, maybe linebacker. I think this is where we see Latu. He's fallen a little bit. There's been guys like Jared Verse and Dallas Turner to go above him. Latu, there's going to be questions about his medicals and all of that. He had to medically retire at one point during his college career, and he came back and he was dominant at UCLA. But there's going to be questions about his medicals, and that's probably what's going to make him fall ultimately in April. And
so if you're not that confident, once again, drum roll, please give me Chop Robinson, Mason.
Is he still on the board? I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
We talked about him so much that I feel like we've taken him. But I'm all for Chop Robinson. I'm all for it.
Chop's the pick. Number 24, the Dallas Cowboys. Who do you got?
Yeah, with Dallas, you're losing your defensive coordinator. And you're bringing in Mike Zimmer, a guy who, in case you didn't know, loves to blitz. Yeah.
If I am the Dallas Cowboys, I am taking the non-sexy pick. I'm going offensive line here. And the reason why I'm going offensive line is you have to continue to build what has worked for you in the past. Their offensive line has worked for them in the past. Keon Coleman is another guy I'm looking at.
I think they go Falcons too. I think he's the pick here. You need some guy next to Tyler Smith, whichever position he plays. And I think Falcons could be solid for them.
If I'm the Dallas Cowboys, once again, I'm looking. You got to build what's worked. Offensive line, you can never go wrong with offensive line. Falcons the pick here for the Cowboys. Number 25, the Packers. There's a lot of talent on the board, Mace. Who you got?
Yeah, there's a lot of talent. And I think defensive line should be a target here for the Packers, specifically the interior. John Noon's already off the board. I'm looking at tackle maybe. Could this be the position for Amarius Mims? I could definitely see it. Currently, you have Zach Tom at right tackle. I think Amarius Mims could be the pick here. Project right tackle. You're gonna try and build the offensive line to protect your franchise guy, Jordan Love. I think Amarius Mims is the pick.
There's a lot of sexy things you can do here, but I will take it back. For you Packers fans, you're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. Go back and rewatch Thursday Night Football, I believe, or Monday Night Football against the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions were absolutely tearing up their offensive line. And that is the game. I don't care what happened after. That is the game that I pinpoint. I know their offensive line was hurt. I pinpoint that and say that is how Jordan Love will fail in the NFL. How do you correct that? You go offensive line. Mims is the pick here. Number 26, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Who do you got?
Yeah, there's a lot of different things you can do. You have a new offensive coordinator, Liam Cohn, coming from Kentucky. Maybe you get an offensive piece for Baker Mayfield. You could potentially be losing Mike Evans in free agency. There's a lot of moving pieces with this Tampa Bay team, and I think they probably do lose Mike Evans in free agency. So a guy to replace him, I think this is where Brian Thomas lands in Tampa Bay. I know they technically right now don't really need a receiver, but with the potential of losing Mike Evans and where their cap space is and everything right now, but Brian Thomas here, I think, could be the replacement for Mike Evans in Tampa.
I think they go defense here. In my opinion, I would go Kool-Aid McKinstry if I was them. But once again, this is before free agency. I like the Brian Thomas. I think they go Brian Thomas, but just an alternate with Kool-Aid McKinstry on the board. He's another guy. I think they could go secondary.
Now I think they go edge rusher. You got 27. Laitu Latu has fallen in your lap. I'm going Latu here at 27 for the Cardinals without a doubt.
Number 28, the Buffalo Bills. This one's an interesting one. Who do you got?
Yeah, I think for the Bills, you definitely going defense here. Or maybe wide receiver. I could definitely see wide receiver as well. But with Brian Thomas on the board, I mean, maybe Keon Coleman. I'm a little bit lower on him than a lot of people. But, I mean, do you want to go Keon Coleman? I'm for it.
Why are you low on him? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I just think he can't separate. He can't separate to save his life. So his separation skills aren't that great. I feel like some of his routes aren't really that sharp. And then I know he's a big guy. He can catch stuff, but I mean, I'm not that impressed with his hands. I know he can make contested catches. He's not that fast, in my opinion, either. So I have like a low first round grade on him, I believe. Maybe it was a high second, but I think this is the perfect area to go with Coleman here. I just don't have him. I know some people had him in that same tier with guys like Neighbors and Odunze, maybe slightly below it. I don't think he's close to it. I'm lower on Leggett than I was on Keon Coleman. Okay. I just think Leggett, he's great. He's not that great of a route runner. Similar problems to Coleman. He's a bigger guy. He came in smaller than I expected. He's listed at 6'3" on the South Carolina website. He came in at 6'1" at the Senior Bowl, which one of the big things with him is that he looked like a bigger guy on film. He can go up, make these contested catches similar to Keon Coleman. I think potentially Leggett can do it better than Coleman, but he's just tiny. He came in a lot tinier, weight-wise too, was a little bit less as well.
Keon Coleman is the pick for the Buffalo Bills. He takes over the Gabe Davis role. And when I'm looking at the next pick, you got the Detroit Lions just coming off an NFC Conference Championship appearance. Who do you got?
Yeah, I think Kool-Aid McKinstry's the pick for Detroit. They need some help in that secondary. We saw it expose them during in some of the other games as well. It wasn't really that much. It was more the run game during the San Francisco game and the NFC Championship. But throughout the regular season, we've seen the weaknesses. Don't really know what's happening with CJ Gardner-Johnson right now. Yeah, I think he's an impending free agent too. I could be wrong. He is. Yeah, so I think Kool-Aid McKinstry, they need some help in Detroit in that secondary. Kool-Aid McKinstry's the pick.
Defensive line is the pick. I mean, defense is the pick. It's either defensive line or it's cornerback. Yeah. I would go Kool-Aid. He's the best talent on the board. For 30 overall pick, the Baltimore Ravens select defensive tackle from Texas, Byron Murphy. This is a slam home run pick for the Ravens, right? I look at Byron Murphy. He shouldn't make it here. He's going to be a top 20, top 25 pick, elite pass rusher from Texas. The dude can take on double teams, hold his own in the run game, but one-on-one, offensive lineman absolutely blows him out the water. And when you look at the Ravens, Justin Matabuke is a free agent. And regardless, you've got to build the trenches, beef them up. And Byron Murphy is the best player on the board still here. Best pass rusher available. Consensus top, in my opinion, should be a top 20 pick. He is the number 2 defensive tackle prospect in this class. Ravens beef up their defensive line.
that's pretty much it at wide receiver. You Rasheed Rice. It seems like Kadarius Toney is going to be gone. I don't think he's coming back. But a guy that's standing out to me, A.D. Mitchell out of Texas, dominant when he was at Georgia, dominant when he was at Texas this year, especially that game against Alabama was awesome to watch. So A.D. Mitchell would be my pick here at 31.
It may sound crazy to Chiefs fans. Oh, we're going with another, wide receiver. A couple years ago, went with the running back from LSU. And I look at the Chiefs roster, man. This is one where they could go anywhere. And this is the part about being the end of the first round. You can just draft best player available. I think it's either Mitchell, or if I had to take another guess, I think they could potentially, I'm gonna be honest, I think they could go with like an interior defensive lineman like Graham Barton. I also think they need to beef up the right tackle spot. I don't believe in the right tackle right now, but wide receiver, I like it.
Yeah, final pick here. I think they go offensive line, and I think they go Tyler Guyton. I think that for them, it's really up in the air, going to be between Jordan Morgan, Tyler Guyton. They have that left tackle. The question is, can Jordan Morgan play right tackle? Tyler Guyton's played it for pretty much all of his Oklahoma career, and Jordan Morgan has just played left tackle all of his collegiate career. You need a right tackle. In my opinion, Jordan Morgan would be the higher floor guy, but Tyler Guyton is the higher ceiling guy. But Tyler Guyton would also be more of a project because, again, he hasn't played a lot. So Tyler Guyton would be my pick just because he has more experience at right tackle. He's got that higher ceiling than Morgan does, in my opinion. I think San Francisco goes O-line here, whether it be one of them or a guy like Graham Barton or Patrick Paul, some other guys on the board, Sua Matea out of BYU. So I think those guys could be options too, but in my opinion, Tyler Guyton's the pick.
We appreciate you guys for tuning in. Once again, if you guys want more draft content, click the subscribe button down below, like this video, and comment your favorite pick. Comment a pick you disagreed on, and we will have more mock drafts coming on the TWSN YouTube channel. I'm Daniel Alameda here with Mason Kinnahan. We